and then you run into the same problem. Or if you have to kill power back on to make it work, chances are you've got a ground problem because controls don't heal. You know, when an electronic thing goes out and you can power it down and turn it back on again and it's working, it doesn't heal itself, okay? When an electronic part goes, it's bad. It dies. So anything that's doing that is saying, yeah, I've got an external problem. It's typically bad ground. Or noise on the bus because it is the line termination. You could run the wires 4,600 feet. So your bus wire. So if it's a daisy chain going from one to the next to the next to the next, you could put them up to 4,600 feet away, total bus. If you're going to do more than that, then you need a repeater. But on a WebStat, I've never seen. Been close. I've had one place where we had actually put in 2 WebStats. It was St. Rita's school for the deaf, and they actually had stats everywhere. But the neat thing was the stats, the remote sensors everywhere. The stats were all in a couple locations. So we put the web visions near those, and we put all D750s in. But yeah, you can get some pretty long distances. And the communication bus, there are terminals on the sub-base of the stat, and of course they plug into this connection here. The recommended method is daisy chain. It goes from one to the next, but it doesn't have to be daisy chain. But if you don't use daisy chain, you cut your distance in half. Typical lawn communication protocol. Whatever brand you see that's lawn, all follows the same rules. Echelon makes the chip that we use, the communication protocol, and we're just doing their recommended methods. The type of wire you want to use, just come here and get it. It's real simple. Talk to Tyler, you guys. Here's the wire.
That's right.
Use this.
You can have it in what, orange, purple, yellow? I think we stopped purple.
Colors.
Absolutely.
What more could you ask for? Even a wire comes in colors. And a wire, by the way, in the lawn world is not polarity sensitive. So, you know, just says EE, does not a plus and minus.
Unlike 45.
And there's no predetermined color either then?
Well, the lawn cable has a white and kind of a white and a blue white. So, but you really can transpose it. It's optically coupled within the device, and it doesn't care about polarity, unlike 485, 232, and all the other stuff. You truly can. Most people that install it will put the white wire on the same terminal, you know, just as old habits, but you don't have to do that. It's very forgiving.
Lawn is kind of the weirdest communication. I've got systems out there that, and the biggest problem you have with lawn is that it'll work when it shouldn't.
That's true.
Yeah, that's it. Why is this thing? Someone drove a nail through it. Why is it still working?
With one wire.
Yeah, and I've had that happen where the guys put in the wire and they put it in a conduit or something. They had to bend in the sharp edge, strip the wire, short it out, and rather than bring the whole bus down, this part will work and that one won't. You plug in here, well, this part works and that part works, but this part doesn't. Then you plug it somewhere else, and there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah. With lawn, like any other communication bus, use best practices, support it above the ceiling, don't lay it across fluorescent fixtures, keep away from them. It is not shielded. It's not shielded because it's a high-speed bus and there's capacitive reactance and all that. But keep away from anything that could induce signals into it.
And anything that could cut the like ductwork or anything that will cut the wire itself, short it to ground. And you can put it on a router and send it to the internet if you want. And we'll go into that in a minute. Power supply is basically a plug-in. And
if your installation requires a hard wire, we can provide you one, you know, hardwired power supply, but the plug-in comes with it. Just doesn't come with the kit.
Let me just get into the. Now there is some real nice presentations online with voice and everything else at the customer to Honeywell site. I'm going to take you there in a minute. But this is what the login screen looks like. And you see it's still loading. I'm waiting for it to load. I just realized I'm not online. When it loads up, you'll see a picture here. Now you can put any picture you want there. This just happens to be the default picture that comes with it. And the user ID and password is put in here. Now that's important. User ID and password gets, of course, into the system, but depending on how that user ID is set up, you have different functions. For instance, if I have 20 stats in the building, it's a commercial building, and I'm letting my customers, my tenants, look at this thing, I can say, well, you know, when Jim logs in, his name is Jim, password Jim, puts it in there, and boom. You can set it up so he only sees his own thermostat, he can't see anything else. So he can only, and you can set it so he can't touch anything, he can just look. You can allow him to change set points if you want, maybe you can change schedule. But that's all he can do, he can only touch his own. So those are the things that you have that capability of doing in a WebStat. And so login is important. This is what the screen looks like. Now, after you wire up the stats and you plug in your WebStat and power it up, by the time you log into it, it takes about 5 minutes to boot up because it is a computer. By the time you log into it, this will already be showing up. It goes out there and discovers the stats automatically, puts them on the screen. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's working right, because your stats may not be set up right. I mean, you might have different set points you want, different schedules you want, but it finds them first. We haven't programmed the thermostats yet. So to program it, you got to hit the thermostats tab. And I'm going to do this for you online, and if you guys have a computer that can talk to the network here, you can go online with it. So what it does is, if you, let's say you just added another stat while you're doing it, you can hit the Discover button and it'll find that stat and bring it up again. If there's a problem, for instance, when you first load up a stat, its node address is 0, 0. And something will do 1, 1. If you had programmed the stat, for instance, previously and downloaded it, it might have an address already in it. So when the WebStat finds it and it sees that that node address conflicts with something else, it will change it for you. It will give you that alarm and then say, okay, I'm going to change it for you, so that it fits in here without messing up the bus. You can't have two devices with the same node address. It won't know who it's talking to.
So how do you readdress it?
It does that automatically. It just goes in there and changes. What it does is recommission. And when you commission the control in the lawn world, in lawn spec, for those of you who've used that, we call commissioning really, it's download. But it does both things at once. But in the real lawn world, when you're using a lawn product like Wedge or something, when you say commission, what it does is it erases internally, it clears out the data sharing information and puts in the new address, and it allows you to start over. And then when you download, you're downloading all the other information. So the commissioning is different from downloading. Not a big deal. It will do that for you automatically if you commission that. Yeah.
If it discovers it automatically, how's it know which stats Bill's stat, which stats Bob's stat?
It doesn't.
It just that point.
It just says thermostat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right.
And then, unless you've already programmed it. Now you can program all these stats in lawn spec, have it all ready to go, and then put WebStat on there. It discovers everything, brings it in, names and all. But you can program it in this pretty easily. So No need to do that. And the names of storage